Welcome back to the Red Stool. And today we're talking about My Hero Academia chapter 344, Protagonist. Now, we pick up the chapter right where we left off. The war has started, heroes versus villains. Who's gonna reign supreme in this epic battle for hero society? And of course, last chapter we left off with All For One. He ended up triggering All Might's trap card by barging into UA and bringing half of the League of Villains plus his subordinates with him. And the heroes were actually able to quickly respond by summoning the top heroes, Endeavor, Mirko, Fat Gum, plus help from the kids at UA. And it's looking like we're about to engage in this all-out face-off, and it's just going to get nuts immediately. But, you know, of course, there has to be a little bit of strategy and thinking in these things. We can't just go into this all-out blitz, heroes attacking villains. We don't want a repeat of what happened at the hospital. So this is where we kind of get some depth towards what All Might and Tsukauchi's plan is, which basically revolves around them luring One For All out. And how they were able to do that was they were actually able to call on some of the kids from Class 1B, like Shinzo, who actually was able to, through training and the tutelage of his dad, aka Aizawa, and he's actually learned how to further manipulate people into talking and doing what he wants while they're underneath his mind control. So it's really cool to see other kids and other characters within the heroes and UA stepping up, unlocking new aspects of their quirk, just so it can actually be better than B-tier Class 1B students who are going to end up fighting some random villains or trying to save some random civilians. And it kind of makes sense as to how they were able to use his quirk to trick All For One, because while they're brainwashed, they're not lying. They're just doing as they're told. So it kind of gives them a nice little technicality so they can breeze past All For One's lie detector quirk, basically. Since Horikoshi decided not to give it a name, I'm just going to go ahead and take some agency there, and we're just going to call it the lie detector quirk from now on. But the plan to utilize Class 1B students doesn't end there. They also bring in Monoma. Of course, how he was talking to Aizawa, him and Bloodglad, and a few other people as they stood in front of Kurogiri, and they're saying, hey, all we need you to do is basically learn how to use his quirk within like 2 days so we can change the outcome of this battle. And Monoma just being kind of taken back by this huge hero's task that he's been given. Just because we get a quick flashback and it's like all his life, all he's been told is, hey man, you'd make a great sidekick. You know, if I was a top hero, I definitely want you as one of my sidekicks because your quirk can basically just copy minds. And make sure you keep your goals realistic, because with your quirk, hey, it's great in certain instances, but you'll never be good enough on your own to be a top tier hero. You be great support. So just kind of seeing him get that treatment from other people all his life, even though his quirk can be super useful and people should be telling him the sky is the limit just as much as they were telling Bakugo. But it's nice that Horikoshi actually gives us this parallel between kids like Bakugo who get this praise and are told the sky's the limit versus kids like Monoma who, hey, you can only go but so far. Good quirk, but you're not going to be a pro. Always going to be Class 1B, not Class 1A. Remember that. It just goes into a lot of the psychology of a hero, because it starts off when they're young, hearing certain things like that, and going into their adult lives is going to affect how they view themselves and how they can use their quirk to be a hero. So I'm glad that Horikoshi is giving us this whole experience of the things that kids have to deal with when having quirks and being compared and having limits put on their success at a very young age. But we see this look he has in his face where he's like, you know what? It doesn't matter because I'm ready to step up. I'm ready to be a hero. I've had so much to prove since day one, and now this is my big stage. This is where I get to say I'm here and the world is going to know who the Phantom Thief is. And of course, last week, I definitely thought that he was going to be a major hitter in this war. Like, his quirk allows him to basically, he can copy up to, the last we saw, he could copy up to 3 people's quirks for 3 minutes each. And I'm pretty sure he's pushed the ceiling on that since. So if he's able to not only master Warp Gate, but it's also implied that he's going to be able to use Eraser as well, since Aizawa losing his eye knocks him out of this fight because he can't use his quirk effectively anymore. And he's an emitter. Monoma has no problem mimicking emitter quirks. We've seen him do it many times when he switched from using Bakugo and Kirishima's quirk. So pretty sure he's going to be using Eraser as well, just to help keep the casualties down, because we all know that that's one of the major things that Eraser was doing during the raid in the hospital, was just keeping Shigaraki from using his decay quirk, which helped keep the casualties to a minimum. But we hop back into real time on the battlefield where, of course, the heroes and villains, they've successfully met each other. And All For One, he's kind of taking a moment right now. He's saying, okay, it seems they've been planning this. What's going to come next? I need to understand what's about to happen. Because the third part of All Might's plan was, he understood that he was using search to effectively track them, which is why they could never really catch him no matter how much they searched, because he could always keep moving and he could always just make sure with his teleport quirk, he could always just be one step ahead of them. So they scattered all the pro heroes so it looked like they were still out searching. And of course, they still have Deku running around and acting crazy like he can't wait to stop this. So all of that kind of gave him that false sense of security to trigger this trap. And I like how they go through the progressions of that. It's not just, oh, you fell right into our trap. They kind of explain it, and how they were able to catch someone who's so savvy, like All For One, off guard for once, instead of them responding to what he's doing. I keep saying this, but I love the parallels that Horikoshi is giving us here versus when we had the heroes running into the hospital and they ended up with more than they bargained for. Now we have All For One doing the exact same thing, where he's charged into UA and he's actually just charged into a trap with a little bit more than he's bargained for. And as everybody kind of steps forth onto the battlefield and we just get to start taking stock on the hero side and the villain side, of course, Dabi sees Endeavor and it immediately triggers him. He sees Shigaraki as well, but he's not really too worried about Shigaraki. He doesn't really care. He's like, hey, I'm about to do my own thing now. I see my dad. This is about to be it. I'm about to kill some of his friends in front of him, and he's going to be powerless to do anything about it. But of course, Todoroki on the other side, he stops him with an ice wall. And before things can get too out of control and we get this just all-out mad hero versus villains fight, All Might activates Troy. And like its namesake, the Walled City, he actually puts walls around all of the villains, except for All For One. And of course, this is kind of triggering All For One to just step back and think. He hasn't really made any moves yet, aside from bringing everybody here. He's still sitting back. He's still trying to figure out everything that's going on, because he's like, I know that All Might doesn't think these walls can hold them more than a few seconds. What is his end goal here? What's actually happening? I need to get back to being 3 steps ahead versus experiencing everything in real time and reacting. This isn't how he planned this to go. But of course, we already know what the plan is. It's to separate them and deal with them on one-on-one scales, one-on-one fights, which is much more advantageous to the heroes. And now we just need Monoma to step up one more time. And of course, he delivers this crazy line, because he's still going to be him. He's still going to talk down. I love it how he stays true to that persona that he's built up since day one. And he goes again to use Warp Gate, because he's going to use it to push all the villains and heroes into separate spots. Now, whether or not he succeeded, it's kind of left ambiguous. I'm sure we'll see at the end of the chapter. I feel like they should have succeeded, but, you know, of course, it's a new quirk form, so he might not have it down pat to 100%. It may just teleport some of the villains away. I think this is a great start for the heroes, war-wise. For once, they've been able to trigger the villains' action and set themselves up for success versus chasing behind the villains or trying to intercept them midway through whatever villainous plan they have. Now, what they're going to need to look out for is, even though they've started off great, All For One still has the ability to change this battle and insert chaos, with Toga having twice his blood and Deku's blood. That's going to be a lot of chaos that she can insert into this battle. Plus, we still know that he still has Spinner's Vanguard Force, and they haven't struck yet. Also, he's going to need to watch out for Shigaraki, because Shigaraki just kind of seemed aloof momentarily when he appeared in the chapter. He's touching the liquid on the ground from All For One's teleportation quirk, and we still don't know if he's All For Gaki or if he's Shigaraki. Is he All For One? It's still a loop. He could turn on him at any second, honestly, I feel like, so that's something else he's going to have to watch out for. Now, we know that the heroes, they still have backup waiting in the wings. They're probably waiting to also deal with Spinner's Action Vanguard Force, plus Shiketsu in the West. They could be, the next win once we get to a point with these battles where the heroes, they've all gone plus Ultra and they need that second win. That's where Shiketsu could come in and really change the tide of the battle. But right now, we're just definitely going to need to focus on whether or not Monoma was able to pull it off and actually use Warp Gate to separate everyone. Plus, I was really digging Shinzo's new costume this chapter. He's got like a more so... I like the parallel between him and Aizawa, because it looks like he has more so of like a ninja-esque costume, and Aizawa has always been a ninja-esque stealthy kind of guy. So I like the parallels they're throwing up there. And I'm really excited for a lot of these one-on-one fights. I'm excited to see the standoff between Endeavor, Todoroki, Dabi, plus Shigaraki, Deku, and maybe even Shigaraki, Deku, Bakugo. You never know. And also, it kind of occurred to me, someone's going to have to step up and fight All For One. And I couldn't help but notice that Bakugo, he's not really paired off with a single villain. So that would be really cool if Bakugo actually ended up taking on All For One while Deku takes on Shigaraki. A guy can dream. Of course, if anybody's been a long-time watcher of mine, you know that Bakugo, he's one of my favorite heroes. But tell me what you guys are feeling in the chapter. Did he do enough? Are they going to be able to separate the villains? Or are they going to break out and this battle is going to immediately turn to chaos again? Who do you think has the upper hand right now? And will All For One be able to kind of rally himself and respond accordingly? And of course, as always, make sure you follow me on social at DatBoyBestBoy. I'm going to catch y'all later, all right? Peace.